Welcome to the Feminine Truth Podcast with Mary Miranda, a place where you can reconnect with your wild, cyclical, and fierce truth. I am Mary Miranda, a mentor, guide, healer, and intuitive coach. I guide women on a journey of remembrance, reconnection, and embodiment of their inner feminine truth. Join me each week to tap into raw, unedited, and unfiltered sacred conversations to help women tap into their inner feminine truth to become bold, unshakable, and apologetic in who they truly are. Let's jump into today's sacred. And today I want to bring you an episode about why women attract men in their feminine energy. And I don't want to make this as a way that I'm blaming women or I'm putting shame on women. I absolutely am not. It's more from an awareness perspective, and I want you to understand why this could be happening to you. And I don't want to come off as making you feel like there's something wrong with you, that you need to fix and heal something. No, this is something that I honestly struggle with. And I learned a few things, and I just want to share them with you. And I fully believe this stems from childhood and who we had to become to get love, our needs met, and feel a sense of belonging within our families. And many of these patterns or dynamics that we attract into our lives are on an unconscious level, and we don't realize how our upbringing has been affecting us. And so today I wanted to make this episode to kind of bring awareness more than anything. And if you feel you need to take ownership of something that you need to heal, then by all means, but just like listen to this with an open mind so you can understand yourself better. And the first question, like I said, I feel like, and I know that this stems from our upbringing and who we have to become growing up to get love from our caregivers. I want you to ask these questions to yourself. Who did you have to become and be growing up to get love from your dad and from your mom? So separate. Who did you have to become? Who did you have to be? How did you mold yourself to be in order to get love, your needs met from your mom and your dad? And who have you been in relationships with men? What have you done to get love from men? How have you acted to get love from men? Those are like very important questions that can give you a lot of insight. And we have patterns. A lot of times we have patterns that we need to heal to be able to feel whole and complete within ourselves. And then maybe one day meet someone that is up to our standards and we feel fully aligned with the relationship dynamics that we desired. And this relationship dynamic, probably it's not something that is aligned with you. A man that is in his feminine energy, and not just any feminine energy, is his wounded feminine energy. But I first want to say that obviously you know that you're innately worthy enough and deserving of your deepest desires and the relationship that you want, and know what you desire and deserve, and don't settle until you meet that person. And I also want to tell you that this is something that I struggle with. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about my story, or how this pattern showed up in those dynamics. And there was a point in my life that I didn't like my patterns. Once I started becoming aware of them, and I didn't like who I was being, how I was acting, who I was showing up for myself and in relationships, romantic relationships, and also obviously relationship with others. But I didn't like something within me. I didn't like some patterns and behaviors that I had. And I didn't ultimately like the relationship I had with myself. So I first started this journey after I was heartbroken from a toxic relationship many years ago. And I first started this journey as a means to heal and fix myself so I could get the love and that I desire, so I can meet the one, so I can find a man, so I can attract a man. So everything, even though I thought I was doing it for myself, the ultimate goal was for a man, to attract a man. And when I started like realizing that I was doing everything and I was trying to love myself and I was trying to heal my patterns was to get a man, I kind of like took a step back and I was like, no, I don't want to. do this just for a man, and a man that doesn't even exist. I don't want to have to go through all of this just to get love and a man. I want to do this because I love myself, because I want a deeper connection and relationship with myself, because I truly, truly want to reconnect and have a deep connection with myself. I want to feel whole and complete. I want to feel like I am the one, the love of my life. I want to feel like I'm my own upgrade, my own glow up, like the one for myself. And I wanted to love myself so bad because I never knew what that felt like. And I wanted to feel whole and complete and have just this incredible and amazing relationship with myself. And that's where things shifted for me, because I discentered men and took them off the pedestal and put myself in the pedestal and center myself. And everything that I have been doing and done for myself, it's because of me, not because I want to get a man or because I want to attract a desired candidate. I'm doing everything ultimately for me and for my inner child, because we both deserve this. So I want to make sure that when you come into this, you ask yourself, what are you doing this for? Is it for you more than anything, so you can get to know yourself more, so you can have more awareness about you and have a deeper connection and relationship with yourself? Or are you really doing this just to attract a man and love? And I know that you deserve this. And this is by no means me saying that, no, don't do this for other people. No, I want you to put yourself first and do this for yourself first, and then for someone else, and then to attract love. But it's like, no, I'm doing this because I want to love myself. I want to get to know myself more. I want to reconnect with myself, and I want to heal these patterns for me, because I want to feel whole and complete within myself and attract one day someone from this place of feeling abundant and happy with my own skin and whole and complete, not from this place of neediness or scarcity. So make sure the focus is on you first, and then a man or a relationship. That's very important for me to say. And by all means, if you want love and a relationship, that's amazing. We all do. It's just a matter that you put yourself first, and then the other people come after. Now, if you're finding yourself in this relationship dynamics that you attract men in their feminine energy, the reason why it's because you are in your masculine energy in relationships, and your feminine energy, it's nowhere to be found, or maybe is very dormant, or is very in its wounded state, but you're operating within relationship dynamics in your masculine energy, and that doesn't work. You can be in your masculine energy for sure, within context of a job, within context of a goal, even within a relationship, but you have to know and be very discerning when to utilize or bring forth your masculine energy, and when to kind of tone it down a little bit, and when to really, really bring up your feminine energy. It's kind of like this beautiful dance. So it's not like one, you're going to get rid of it completely. You can never get rid of your masculine and feminine energy. They're always within you. It's just a matter of what state are they operating in. Are they from their wounded state or empowered state? Or are they from this very light, very empowered, very uplifting state? Or what state are you primarily in? And a lot of times women, especially if you are this type of woman, you're probably a very hyper independent woman, very ambitious, very driven, very type A, very overachiever, very goal oriented, very I can do it all. If I don't do it, it won't get done because I only know the way and I have to have everything done my way, or there's no way, or it's not going to work. So you don't really trust everybody else doing things for you. So there's a lot of, you struggle with delegating because you struggle somebody not being able to do it the way you do it. You're also a hustler. You're very resourceful, very reliable, very capable, very planner, very go-getter, take charge, lead, very in control. You're also probably a perfectionist. You're also very dominant, very competitive. This is where power struggle can really, really affect in a relationship. And you probably also struggle with anxiety and stress. You probably need a lot of strategy and structure. And like I said, because you're a planner and you like having your ducks in a row, you like knowing what to do, the plan, the to do list, and all of that. And we what happens in relationships is that we treat men in relationships more like a project because you like fixing things. If he's not able to step up, you're going to do it all. You're going to fix it. You're going to do it your way. And you're so used to taking charge and being in control and leading that is so hard to trust a man and someone else to lead and take charge and being in control because that's never happened to you. And if it happens to you, it hasn't led to favorable outcomes. You also fear of letting go of control and not trusting things to get done or will go the way they're supposed to. Not knowing what's on the other side is very terrifying for you. So you're a lot of times, this is why you like being in control. It gives you this false sense of control, by the way, and this sense of safety. You're safe, everything's gonna be okay. So you also struggle with feeling with uncertainty, not knowing what's on the other side with future. And we don't have control of the future because you don't know what's going to happen in the future, but it gives you this false sense of control. It makes you feel good and safe and you can sort of relax. You're also probably not used to rely and depend on men because you have been let down and disappointed by men in your life, maybe your father and your upbringing, or a strong male figure, and it's really hard for you to trust men again. It's really hard also for you to ask for help and support and letting people help you, support you, be there for you because you are so used to being the one that everybody comes to, everybody relies on you, everybody can count on you. So nobody really sees your struggles. Nobody really sees like that you are going through it because you have this facade of being so independent. I can do it all, be so strong. You're probably not in tune with your emotions. You're probably emotionally unavailable too. So nobody really gets to connect with you deeper just because there's this wall that and this facade. But deep down, you're exhausted, you're burnt out, you're tired. You wish somebody can take the lead, someone can help you and support you, but you struggle letting people see this because you feel it's a weakness when it's really not. But you struggle with being vulnerability, like letting people really see what's going on. And we also don't want to bother people, we don't want to inconvenience someone, so we that's why we would rather do it ourselves. So that's why we became so resourceful and so reliable, self-reliable, because we had to find a way to do it ourselves because we couldn't depend on anyone else, especially our fathers, or our mothers too. You don't trust people to make plans and take the lead. And I think I already said this. You also don't give up easily or quit. You're not a quitter. So a lot of times, this is why you always stick through this relationship dynamics because you always want to find a solution because you're not a quitter. You don't give up easily and you're going to make it work. And it's like a project that it has to have this goal and outcome. And it's a lot of times it's not going to work. But there's also this other side that you're also in your disempowered feminine energy when it comes to you having poor boundaries, you overgiving, you over functioning in relationships. That's why you're so tired and burnt out. You self-sacrificing and putting everybody else's needs before your own. That's why you don't take care of yourself the way you're supposed to and need to. You also have this energy of rescuer and saver. That's why these men rely on you so much and they let you do everything because they want to be saved. They're kind of like damsels in distress. And I already said this, you're emotionally unavailable. So nobody really knows what's going on with you because you have this facade of being so strong, so powerful, so hyper independent, like nothing faces you. But deep down, you're probably exhausted, especially if you're in this dynamics that you're the one doing everything. And the type of men that you end up attracting are men who are in their wounded feminine energy and also in their wounded masculine energy. But we're going to focus more on the wounded feminine energy. So these are men who depend on you for everything. So they're very codependent on you, very reliable on you. They depend on you for everything because they're so used to you doing everything. Men who don't plan, who don't take lead, who don't take charge, men who are more kind of like lean back, and they can come off as being lazy, being kind of wishy-washy and very swamping their energy. Men who don't put effort because they know you got it. They know you're the one making the effort. They don't have to work hard. They don't have to sweat because you're the one doing everything. And they're so used to this dynamic. That's why it also keeps happening. Men who are very passive, men who just wants to sit back and be pampered, cater, and serve, kind of like the princess treatment. And this is where the sassy men are getting so sassy that they want do all of this. And the sassy men that you see online, they're in their wounded feminine energy, by the way. And men who put bare minimum effort and they want you to do everything, pay for the dates and things like that. Men who don't chase and pursue you, they want to be pursued, the sassy men. Men who are very inconsistent and don't take a stand, inconsistent with all of his behaviors, his words don't align with his actions. Men who don't have discipline, men who don't have direction in life and relationships, men who are emotionally immature and unavailable and very emotional, very dramatic, very into gossip, men who feel like, and they are very incompetent when it comes to helping you around the house or helping you in the relationship, because he lets you do it all since you take the lead, and they're so used to that dynamic. He doesn't have to step up. He doesn't have to do things. This is why a lot of women struggle with men taking out the trash, men helping around the house. Men who lack integrity and don't follow through. His words don't align with his action. He's very incongruent. Men who don't never show up. His actions don't show up, and men, he doesn't show up for yourself either. Men who lack confidence. They constantly need validation from others. They have low self-esteem. They have low self-worth, and they will project this onto you. Men who are very undecisive, they kind of go with the flow, last minute plan. They let you take the lead. They don't know what decision to make, kind of very wishy-washy, swamping energy. Men who have no boundaries. He's a taker. He's not a giver. He takes from you. That's why you're so exhausted. They want to be rescued and saved from their misery. They don't know how to communicate well. He's not the provider type. And I have found that the red pill podcasting bros or the alpha male bros, or those men who claim they are in their masculine energy, are actually in their feminine energy. Men who are not the provider type, men who want 50-50 relationships, men who seek equality, men who complain about paying for dates and they want to keep the score, they want to teach you a lesson, men who hate women, don't make an effort, they're kind of very sassing their energy. These men are actually in their wounded feminine energy. They are not in their masculine energy whatsoever. So please don't buy that. Men who are tired of being a man, they're complaining of like being the provider, taking action, goal oriented. Like the sassiness that is happening, it's incredible. Like I'm like the audacity that these men have, honestly. They don't really know how to be in their masculine energy. And men who are also very sensitive, which a lot of them are, but these men have no boundaries. They're very codependent. They're very kind of like in their victim mentality. So it makes you feel like they don't have a backbone. It makes you feel they're not rooted. They're not strong. And it's like kind of this very like unattractive energy. So what do you do in this type of relationship dynamics? You feel like you are literally mothering them, like they are children. They're like a child. This is someone that you have to raise. This is someone that you have to continuously tell what to do, how to do it, to do list, do this and that. And it's like this very incompetent type of dynamic that they carry within themselves. And you don't feel attracted to them. This is why a lot of women lose their attraction, because there's no admiration, there's no respect for this men anymore, because they're not showing up the way you desire. So you lose your attraction for them. And so this relationship dynamic shifts because you now see him as incompetent, as someone that you have to mother, someone that you have to raise, someone that you have to teach, someone that you have to save, someone that you have to help. That's what you do with children. You literally train these people. Not, I'm not saying you train children, but you know how they're saying that they're like, oh, you got to train your man to be the way you want. It's like, no, I want someone that knows how to be in his masculine energy, not someone that I have to teach, not someone that I have to raise and tell him like all the things. Like he needs to know this for himself. And I find that many women lose their libido, not only because of this dynamic that is very unattractive and a turnoff for so many women, but because they are stressed and exhausted. So their cortisol levels are probably super high and therefore impacting their hormones, and the libido goes out the window. And this can actually be really damaging. That's why a lot of women just kind of like, there's this coercive control that happens with these relationships, that women enter this intimacy from a place of feeling forced, feeling pressure that they have to do it just to get it over with, but they're not really attracted. There's not that desire there because of the lack of dynamic, and hormonally too. And we're exhausted, we're burnt out. We're burnt out from everything, from doing it all, from being everything for this person. And you don't feel appreciated, you don't feel seen, you don't feel heard, you don't feel loved. um he It makes you feel like you're taken for granted, you're not appreciated. You wish he could take charge and kind of like lead, and kind of like, this is where emasculation comes in, which I know it's very toxic, but you're so fed up and so reactive that you just tell them to man up. And that's where the passive aggressive comments come in, because you're just so exhausted and tired, and you're angry, you're resentful, you're upset. And this is where the relationship turns very toxic and very unhealthy, because you're so unhappy, unfulfilled, and you're just like so done with it, so fed up with it. And you're tired of holding the relationship together and being the driver for the relationship. And you just kind of want to let it go. And you don't, but the reason is like that you don't let it go is because you don't give up easily. You don't quit, and you continue to try to make things work, giving him a chance. But then in the process, you continue to lose yourself, and you continue to overfunction and overgive. And this man is not stepping up to the plate that you desired that he was. So, what happens when you have done the work and you still attract this type of men? Especially men in their feminine energy, because we can attract both. And I'm gonna say this from the best place that I can, because these men are so abundant, especially the men that are more on the avoidance side, because they're quick to jump into relationships, like break up, and they want to go and seek the thrill of a new relationship. So they're very abundant. And I have found that even if you have done the healing work, you are gonna still attract this type of dynamics, because there's so many people that you come across. But once you see the red flags, and once you see kind of like the true colors, and once you really start getting to know these people, that's why we have to allow men to show us who they are, and we need to study their actions and what they do, what they say, how they make decisions, if they align with what we desired, and ask very specific questions that will allow you to get to know them, because you need to have this vetting process to get to know this person by asking questions, by allowing them to show you who they are, so then you can decide if they are a good candidate or not. And what happens is, for example, let's say you attract a man who is in his feminine energy. You start seeing the red flags. You start seeing that he's in his feminine energy. You start seeing that he doesn't take the lead. He doesn't make reservations. He doesn't ask you on dates. He leads you. He makes you want to step up and take the lead as what's going on in this relationship. What are we? What are we? When am I going to see you again? And he's not taking charge. And once you start seeing that, you need to walk away immediately, because you're like, this is something that I don't want to go through again. I understand that I attracted this person, but a lot of times it has nothing to do with you. It just has to do that you are bound to meet someone whether it's someone healed or unhealed in your life. It's just a matter. And the problem is that we stay after seeing the red flags and deal breakers. But in this case, a lot of times it's not our fault, but sometimes it could be patterns within us that continue to operate at a subconscious level. And therefore, we are attracting this type of dynamics. And it's just a matter of becoming aware and conscious of it and do a little bit of the healing work if you need to. So you stop attracting this type of dynamics, but take a step back and don't immediately put blame on yourself or subscribe to the law of attraction idea that we attract what we are or think it's your fault. Sometimes men are really great at putting a front, a facade, and wearing a mask and disguising themselves to be a certain way, like very masculine. Especially, this is what they're at. They ask you, what are you looking for in a relationship? And this is where you do not tell the person specifically what you are looking for, because they are going to use that to mold themselves or pretend to be that person to get you, and then they're going to be in their true selves. And it takes a little bit of time sometimes to get to know someone. And I'm going to say this from an experience angle, because I attracted someone last year. I have done the healing work. I knew all the red flags about narcissistic abuse and all of that. And I still attracted someone who was very misogynistic, very racist, very sexist, put me down about my body. And I'm not going to go into much details about that because I'm probably going to do a podcast on those dynamics later. But at the end of that, I walked away after 8 weeks after he started showing his true colors, because at the beginning it was all love bombing. It was a facade, but the love bombing was very, for me, it's like, well, yeah, I've received this type of treatment before. Of course, I deserve it. I deserve the flowers, the gifts. He was cooking for me. He did my laundry one day. And because I was so busy and he wanted to see me, and I said, hey, no, I have to do laundry today. He's like, oh, why don't you bring the laundry and I'll do it for you while you're at work and doing all those things. So when you come home, I'll have dinner cooked, like he cooked for me, and you can pick up your laundry. And I was like, oh my gosh, thank you so much. That would make me so happy. And I thought, and he also said that he was healed, that he had done the healing work, that he knew about communication, he knew about relationships. He made it seem like he was like this. And he even said this, that he was a man in his masculine energy. He was an alpha male. He was a leader and all of that. And I sort of like, I'm like, well, of course I'm going to believe you, because I don't really know you. I was still getting to know him. It was through the talking stages. And at first it's like, yeah, I deserve this treatment. I deserve the flowers. I deserve the way he treats me. He was treating me like a queen. Everything he said were the right things. And and then little by little, he started showing the red flags, the true colors, and I started noticing things. And at first I was so confused. I'm like, maybe he's having a bad day. And I have the problem, and this was one of my things that I had to take accountability and responsibility, that I'm very understanding and very empathic and very understanding of people's past. And I believe people can change because I have changed. And I know how your upbringing affects who you are. And I'm very aware of that. And that was my biggest mistake, that I was too understanding and I kind of like let some red flags slide, because he said he had done the healing work and I trusted that he did. And I trusted that he had changed who he had been. And of course, the way he talked about his exes, toward the end, I was like, oh my gosh, no, you lied about that too. And I walked away. And I think when I walked away, I felt a lot of shame. I felt a lot of guilt. I felt a lot of regret. And the most amazing thing is that I didn't have to heal from the breakup with him, because he was not my type. He was someone that I was giving him a chance because I met him in like outside of dating apps. And so I didn't have a profile to go off. And I didn't really get to know him until I started getting to know him like slowly through talking to him, asking questions. But once I started getting to know him and understanding, seeing his true colors, his belief system, who he believed, who he like listened to as far as role male models, and like so many other things. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is not the person for me. I don't like the way he is talking to me anymore. he pulled away everything. You know how they say that at the beginning they give you 100% and then they do 90% and then you're confused, but then you don't really notice it, and then they give you 95% again. So then you're good, and then they go back to like 70% and you're kind of confused, and then they give you 100%. It was that, because I'm like, what is going on? To the point that I was a little confused, and I was like, oh my God, is this like, am I not reading the red flags okay? To the point that I started like doubting myself and things. And when I started feeling like that, and the biggest sign for me was that I started having heart palpitations, like I was in a roller coaster, kind of like that hard feeling, but it was like panic attacks. And this was my body telling me that this person was not for me, that I needed to flee, I needed to run away. And I did, and I did, and I'm so thankful. But like I said, I did not need to heal from this person emotionally. I didn't really go through the breakup like that. I was so happy. My life went immediately up, but I was so mad at myself. I was so angry at myself. I had a lot of rage toward myself because I stayed longer than I should have. And how did I attract someone like that? I had done the healing work and I was beating myself up. And at the end, it was like, you know what? I am bound to attract this type of man, but I made the mistake of being too understanding, because he said he had done the healing work and gone to therapy and new relationships and new communication. And I believe that. I believe that. So I'm not going to be so understanding of people's past. If you don't come healed, and I know not everybody it's ever going to be 100% healed, but if you don't come done, I don't want you. Like, I am not gonna put myself through that again. So then I had to do a lot of work, self-forgiveness, not being so hard on myself, and understand that sometimes men are great at putting up a front, a facade, and disguise themselves. And I feel like toward the end, like I started seeing like his misogyny and so many things. And I was like, oh my gosh, now I see what everybody talked, like post once I broke up with him. A lot of people came forward with telling me how they really felt about him. And I was like, people at the gym that I didn't even know. And I think one of the reasons why I didn't walk away sooner is because I met him at the gym, and I needed a 24/7 gym, and I had just moved back to this location where I'm in right now, and I didn't have another gym to go to. And that's the reason why I didn't like leave sooner, because I'm like, oh my God, it's going to be so awkward. I don't know. I don't have another gym. I don't want to drive 30 minutes to another gym because of my schedule and the job that I was at. And that was my fear. I was like, oh my God, once I started seeing his true colors and how he was, I'm like, he is just going to tell people things about me. And I don't like being my people knowing things about me, because I'm very private when it comes to my personal life in real life. Like, I put things on social media, but a lot of people don't know that I have a social media presence or a podcast where I do share a lot of my things. But I'm like, these people don't know me. I don't want them to know. So I know that I have always been afraid of what are people going to say, what are people thinking about me, because I grew up in a very small town that is very judgmental, and your reputation can be ruined like that, kind of like the Bridgerton type of upbringing in a way. That town, very gossipy. If something happens to you as a woman, you are deemed unworthy to be married and all of that. So I grew up with this upbringing that don't take care of your reputation, don't ruin your reputation, like be careful, because what people say matters. And I always grew up caring so much what others thought about me and putting this facade in this front. So it has been a lot of unlayering and healing to really come and feel safe being me and don't care what people think. So toward the end, I finally said, I don't care anymore. There's a reason why I went through this situation, is to heal what people thought about me. So I walked away and I continued to go to the gym, but I would go earlier just because I was already going earlier regardless. And I would only see him like 10 minutes like at the gym. So I didn't really like get to work out around him. So I was like, no, I don't care what he tells people about me, or if people know what's going on with my life. I don't care anymore, because that's his side of the story and I know who I am. And as long as I know who I am, I don't care what everybody else thinks. And I'm telling you, that has helped me so much in the past months, not caring what others think about me or what I'm going through or what I'm doing with my life. And it feels so peaceful. So I'm like, oh, is this the reason why I went through that ordeal? But let's take it back and say, and don't immediately blame on yourself. Sometimes you are bound to meet shitty people. And when it comes to, I went on a tangent, I know, on the other side to someone who was not in his, well, he was in his wounded feminine energy. That's what I'm trying to say. But there's also this side of the men who are in their wounded feminine energy. But this man toward the end, I was like, this man thought he was the alpha gym gorilla. He was in his masculine energy, but in reality, everything he ended up doing and being was a man in his feminine energy. Although this man had very misogynistic, he was very aggressive and abusive, he was still in his very masculine wounded energy and feminine wounded energy, both energies. And I'm just like, and he thought he was like a masculine man, and he really wasn't. But I do have another story to tell you, but I want to say the first thing I'm going to tell you is, what can you do to make sure you don't attract someone in his feminine energy? And you have, like I said, you have to allow a man to show you who he is. You have to really, really get to know yourself and what you desire and what you want in a relationship. And you also have to be really good with leaning into your feminine energy and receiving and allowing others to get to show you who they are. And you do that by leaning back, allowing them without you taking action to show you how they take action, to show you if they align with what you desire. So you have to become very clear on your desires, how you want to be treated in a relationship, what you desire in a relationship, what qualities you want in your partner, and all the checklists, all the lists, like make your list become very clear so you can be really good. Once someone shows you who they are through his actions, you can study his actions and what he does, what he says, and everything. And then you can make an informed decision whether this person is a person you want to go on dates with or you want to give a chance to, and if he's a good candidate or not for you. And one of the ways that you can stop being in your masculine energy and stop attracting this type of men in their feminine, wounded feminine energy, is that you don't pursue or chase or take the lead. I'm not a huge proponent of women making the first move. And I know this happens if you're on Bumble, which is okay. You can do a quick question, hey, how are you? And allow him to take the lead after that in the conversation. I always say, hey, how are you? I don't do the flirting. I don't do any of that. I don't have to come up with a witty opening line. I don't have to do any of that. I just say hi and how are you? How is your day? And I allow him to continue and carry on the conversation and take the lead from that. I kind of just do the first step because you have to do that on Bumble and kind of lean back. In other dating apps, I allow the person to message me first. And I actually like don't swipe on when I haven't been on dating apps in over 13 months. I don't swipe on people. I do pay for the subscription, for the monthly or like weekly subscription. And I see who likes my profile. And I see, and from there, I go and see the list. And then I go and check their profiles. And if I'm aligned with them, and if I like what I physically, what I see too, and I read their profile, then I can swipe right on them. But I never swipe left or right on people. I just do that. That's just the way that I do it. I don't like swiping. I'm not for that. If you want to do that, by all means, please do that. But like I said, don't pursue or chase or take the lead more than you need to. And that goes just for Bumble. Like I said, I'm not a huge fan of women making the first move, asking on the first date, inviting him first. Allow him to take the lead and make plans and show you who he is. And this is coming from someone who is very hyper independent, and I'm a feminist. And this is coming from that type of woman, because I think There was one time that I put in my profile that I was pro feminine empowerment. So a lot of men like would think that I would make the lead, I would take the lead and all that. But once they saw that I didn't, like they would take the lead. So I never really had problems with men making reservations and all of that because everything was listed in my profile. Who I was listed in my profile. What I desire was listed in my profile. The type of relationship that I was looking for. I wanted a man who made reservations. I put everything in my profile. So it makes it so much easier for men to filter themselves out and disqualify themselves when you have everything in your profile. So you don't have to really dig through the information through conversation. And so that really worked for me. Also, let him pay for dates and show you that he can be the provider type, because someone in his masculine energy is a man who has no problem providing for you, especially paying for dates. The men that complain are in their wounded feminine energy. And this doesn't mean that you will never invite him or treat him, but at first allow him to be the one that pays for the date. I've never really struggled with this. This is something that it's always been very easy for me. Actually, I take that back. I ended up being financially abused in my toxic relationship many years ago, but that's a whole dynamic. At first, he was the one paying for everything, and then he was struggling with money. And then there was a lot of financial abuse, a lot of money that I invested in that relationship because I thought it was going to lead to marriage. But after that, I learned better. And I also come from a culture that I'm so used to men providing and paying for dates. So that never even crossed my mind until I joined TikTok and I started seeing this complaint this of men and women posting things that they want men who pay for the first dates and men complaining. And I'm like, of course you're gonna complain. You're the only men who complain about paying and providing are men who don't have the financial means and money. And like I said, this doesn't mean that you will never invite him or treat him for anything whatsoever. Like the last person that I dated, who I'm going to tell a story about, he ended up being in his feminine energy a lot. And he always paid for dates. He never allowed me to pay for anything. And whenever I would come over to his house and we would cook at home, I would be the one bringing the food and I would be the one paying for the food. So it's not like you are never going to also like treat him, because it's nice to do that, but a lot of times like you don't have to. Once you meet someone who's a provider type, you're never going to find yourself questioning like should I treat him, should I not. It's going to come very natural, very effortless and very seamless, and you're never going to even feel like, oh my god, like who's paying, who's not paying, or questioning yourself or stressing about this. And okay, the other thing is stop texting so much, especially if you are the one texting mostly, or if you love like getting to know someone through text. No, kind of keep it to a minimum level, like when you're first getting to know someone. But of course, be very discerning, ask the right questions, get to know someone. So make sure that they are aligned to go on a first date, and get to know also his if you, let's just say you're texting, if you are the one carrying the conversation and asking question or not, then this is where you can tell like, okay, I'm the one that's holding this conversation. If I don't ask him questions, he doesn't ask about me, he's not showing interest, he's not letting me feel that he's interested in getting to know me. I'm the one that's asking questions. And I love asking questions because for me it's also a vetting process. It's like getting to know someone through conversation and casually asking all the questions that I need to know for me to understand what type of man he is. So I do ask a lot of questions, but that I also I'm very careful to know if I'm the one carrying the conversation. And once I see that dynamic, I just lean back and I already know that this is not the type of man that I want. So then I kind of like, unmatch, and I have the conversation that he's not what I'm looking for and go on my way. But this is one of those things, like just look who is carrying the conversation and asking the most questions, if it's reciprocal or not. And don't overfunction in relationships. Instead of you trying to do it all in the relationship, because it's so much easier for you. Don't allow him to make your life easier. If he isn't making your life easier, he isn't the one for you, probably, because you want someone who makes your life easier, who brings and adds to your life, who brings solutions, who helps you, who wants you to elevate and grow, not someone who's bringing you problems, not someone who's bringing you stress, anxiety, and all of that. I also have a podcast episode on kind of like signs to know whether when it's the right time to walk away from the relationship. It was probably like a few podcasts ago, so if you go and look for it, so that's going to tell you a lot of times like, hey, this person is not right for me, this person is showing all these red flags and I need to walk away from this. Don't overextend yourself and mold, contour, and bend over backwards for him. Don't revolve your schedule around him. Don't center him and forget about your life, your friends, your family. Don't go out of your way for them initially. Don't bend over backwards. And for example, if he's not able to meet you where you want, like closer to you, don't offer to drive his way. Don't offer. This is initially because you're trying to see what type of man he is and his actions. Certainly, once the relationship established, you can definitely drive halfway, drive toward him. And like you know when the dynamic becomes at that place that you can be like, oh, it's okay, I don't have a problem driving there, or let's go to this restaurant, or let's go to this other restaurant. But initially you want this person to drive to you. Don't go out of your way initially. Don't lose your boundaries. Don't break your boundaries. Set boundaries and stick to them. Don't say yes when you want to say no. Don't allow him to break your boundaries, to make you compromise your non-negotiables, what you desire in a relationship. Don't force things either. If you are the one asking where is this going, and all like, or you're so afraid to ask that question, you already know this person is not in his masculine energy, because a person who is in his masculine energy, he's gonna be the one having that conversation. He's gonna be the one letting you know how he feels, if he wants a relationship with you or not. And initially, this should be in his profile or in initial conversations, if he wants a relationship or not. So your vetting process has to be really refined for you to know how to vet people out or filter people in and out, because you don't want to waste your time. Like I said, don't force things. If it feels too forced, you're trying too hard, you're too much in your masculine energy, you're trying to push forward, force things, like leave, and you need to take a step back and then surrender and let him go. Don't give and do. Learn to be a receiver. Receive. If he is not a giver, he isn't a man in his masculine energy. And this also comes in intimacy. Is he a giver or a receiver? You also have to understand that dynamic, is that's going to tell you a lot. If he doesn't care about your needs, intimate needs, if he doesn't care about your pleasure and it's all about him, you already know the type of man that he is, and he's probably not someone that you want to be with. And you are not a rehab center for men. Don't try to make him a project and fix him and save him and anything like that, because you're going to be exhausted. Learn to lean into your feminine energy. The hardest part, like I said earlier, about being in your feminine energy is this surrendering, is this leaning back and letting go of control and letting go of leading and learning to receive and learning to trust that you're going to be taken care of and supported. And this has to start more within you. And I feel like the biggest blessing and healing work that you can do from this is your awareness, obviously, but it's like, in order to attract a man in his masculine energy, we also have to have a healthy relationship with our inner masculine and obviously our inner feminine, and vice versa. In both ways, everything starts with you too. And like I said, learn to be a receiver. It doesn't feel comfortable. If it doesn't feel comfortable to receive, for example, if you struggle with compliments, that's how you can start kind of like understanding. If you struggle with compliments, someone giving you compliments or money or gifts, then you know that you need to lean more into receiving, because sometimes a lot of people in this, I see this a lot of in women, that they feel so uncomfortable when they're complimented or when somebody gives them a gift, and you feel this need to reciprocate or give the same in return. If somebody tells you, oh my God, your hair, you're so beautiful. Oh, thank you. So are you. Learn to take compliments without saying, you are beautiful too. Thank you. Or thank you, you too. No, just say thank you. That feels so nice. I fully receive that. Just a lot of times, women, we feel very uncomfortable that we want to reciprocate, which is beautiful to reciprocate, But when you struggle being a receiver, you're always trying to reciprocate. You're always trying to return the favor the same way. I don't know if that makes sense. So just say thank you, and that's enough. Thank you. I fully receive that. Thank you. That makes me feel so good. Thank you. I'm so grateful that you said that. Thank you so much. So practice of receiving, practice surrendering control and leading in relationships. Allow the person to show up for you. Tune into your creative outlet. Do things that bring you pleasure. Feminine energy is not always soft and tender. And I feel that a lot of women who are in their masculine energy, I've been there, I'm still in my masculine energy a lot. They see it as a weakness. But feminine energy is not always soft, it's not always tender. Like my feminine energy is very fierce, is very like dark feminine energy. I have both. I can be very tender, very affectionate, very nurturing, very in the flow, very trusting, very surrender. Like, that pink, it kind of makes you feel like it's like a pink color type of energy, very loving, very nurturing. But I can also be very passionate, very creative, very sensual, very intuitive. That's dark feminine energy. Mysterious, dark feminine energy. Sensuality, creativity, dark feminine energy. Very confident, very persuasive. Your feminine energy doesn't always have to be this energy where it makes you feel you're weak. No, it's a dance of tuning into your body and what feels good and receptive to tune into, and your desires is this very energetic dance that you do. And you have to be very discerning, and you're going to know when you need to be in your very soft feminine energy, when you need to be in your fierce energy, and when you need to be in your masculine energy. It's just this beautiful dance once you start understanding these dynamics. And I also have another podcast about feminine and masculine energy that you probably need to listen to, because it's also going to help you. Um, so if you need to reconnect with your body and your womb, you need to reconnect with your intuition, you need to reconnect with everything within you and learn to be in silence with you. And if you're struggling with your libido and being given to, you can reconnect through sensuality and self pleasure. You can also take a celibacy journey and until you feel good and confident in your own skin and body. So those are just a few ways that you can reconnect with your feminine energy. And some questions that you can ask yourself is, what am I afraid of being in my feminine energy? What do I fear the most about being in my feminine energy? What do I fear it's going to happen if I am in my feminine energy? And I'm speaking solely in relationships, in romantic relationships. What happens with the idea of a man leading, of a man supporting me, or a man providing for me, a man helping me, a man giving me, a man being there for me? How does that make me feel in my body? What comes up? What sensations come up when I think about letting a man lead and me letting go of leading and letting go of control? What happens to my body? What happens to my body when I think about allowing him to lead and to show up for me without me trying to overfunction, to perform, to try to change him, to try to fix him, to try to take the lead because he's not showing up? How does it make you feel when you are out of control, or the thought of you giving up your control? And this is not me saying that you don't have leadership and control in the relationship, not at all. Like, you absolutely do. But this is more for the women who want a man to make reservations, to take the lead in the plans, to take a lead in conversations. This is a lot of times what you have to do, because you can still be in the relationship and make plans. Like, for example, if he says, "Hi, I want to invite you on a date. Like, what's your favorite cuisine? What's your favorite food?" And then, for example, for me, I have food sensitivities. So every time I do get asked on a dinner date, I only accept dinner dates. I always like, when they say, "I want to take you out on a date," I'm like, "Oh my God, I'm so excited. Thank you so much." And then I allow him to tell me what kind of restaurants, or he asked me about my cuisine ideas. So then I'm like, "Oh my God, I love sushi," or "I love this type of food. What restaurants do you have in mind?" And then I allow him to decide. And then I can be like, "Oh, you know what? That restaurant feels so good for me." But I usually check the menu. So with me, when it comes to that, I cannot just let him decide any restaurant. I have to make sure that I am able to eat the foods in that restaurant, because I do have food sensitivities. But I do it in a very seamless way that he doesn't even know that I'm also taking a lead in that in that instance. I'm making him believe and think that he has the lead in everything, and he's making the effort because he is. But at the same time, I am the one that ultimately decides what restaurant I want to go to. And then I say, "Oh my God, that restaurant looks so good. I would love to go to that restaurant." And he's like, "Okay, like these are the reservations." And I allow him. It's like this dance in the conversation, but he doesn't know that I'm also taking the lead, because I'm looking at the menu. I'm making sure that I'm gonna like the restaurant, the vibes are cozy. I don't like very open concept restaurants. I like restaurants that there's not a lot of noise and a lot of sensory overwhelm, because I can get very overwhelmed with a lot of noise, with a lot of talking, with a lot of music so loud. I cannot go to those restaurants. I prefer something where it's a little bit more quiet. And I know that's not easy. So I do have preferences of restaurants that I love going to. And so when I say my cuisine, I am very, very like, it's this dance of the conversation where they don't even know that I'm also leading. I'm also taking charge and deciding where I want to go. But it's this dance that he doesn't even notice. And I just allow him to show off for me in the way that I desire. And it always turns out I always have great first dates. But that's like one of the ways that I can tell you that just because you are leaning back a little bit doesn't mean that you are never going to be in control or take the lead. You just have to be very discerning and very mysterious in the way that you do it. Um, so now I do have a little bit of a story. I did attract someone in his feminine energy, and this was someone that was not toxic at all, in the sense that he was not narcissistic or any of that. But it was literally the best relationship dynamic that I've had. And he always made effort. He made the first move. He always paid for me. He always made plans for us. I would always just show up. He would always make me feel like a queen. It was incredible. It was 3 month relationship. I was blindsided when it ended. And when I started getting to know him at the beginning, everything was amazing, but I started getting to know some things about him. And that's when I was like, oof, he can be an incredible guy. He treats me great, but I'm starting to see things that he is very in his feminine energy. And that's when I had to make the decision that I kind of like, oh my God, like, is this the person that I want for me? But ultimately, some of the red flags that I kind of bypass or that I started noticing is that he was not great with some boundaries. He was also not great intimately. He was, and that's one of the factors when it comes to being in his wounded masculine energy. Um, and I'm not gonna say much about it out of like respect for not, I don't even talk to him, but that dynamic doesn't need to be told, that story. But he was extremely OCD. And these are things that I started noticing, that I was like, he was extremely OCD. And I understand that a lot of people struggle with that. But his apartment looked like it was from a magazine, like impeccable, spotless, organized, beautiful. It looked like a woman had cleaned that apartment. The books were organized by color, by in a certain way, like everything in his house. He also didn't know how to cook. And I want someone that knows how to cook. That was a huge one. But even his linen closet, everything, I was just like, oh my God, like this is so weird. Like I am not even like this. And I kind of like didn't really find that super attractive. I like it when a man is clean, like no, I like when a man knows how to do laundry and all of that. But this was to another level that I was never expecting. And there were moments that he would compliment me and tell me I was so beautiful. And I kind of like didn't believe him because the tone of voice that he used and his energy, I was just like, I started questioning his sexual orientation. And this was not the first time that's happened to me. And that's one of the now something that I need to consider when meeting someone. I'm like, are you straight or are you not straight? And I did have that conversation with him, and he told me he was straight. But there were so many things that made me believe that I don't think he was. And ultimately, I just ended up like not being super attractive to him in that way. And what ultimately led to the breakup is that I went out of town and I got sick. I got the Rona, and he ghosted me for 24 hours when I was really sick. And I didn't like that. So I ended the relationship with him because I'm like, I don't know what's going on. I was blindsided. I didn't know what he was doing. So a lot of things happened. And there are probably more things that I'm going to remember after this podcast episode. But I did attract someone who he was very in his feminine energy. He cares so much about his hair more than I care about my hair. And I do hair treatments every single week. He cares so much about the way his hair looked. And there were times that we would be watching TV and he would tell me, oh, that guy is so attractive or things like that. And I would be like inside of me, I'm like, is it like, I know being metrosexual is normal, but this was to another whole level. And he cares so much about what he wore, that what he dressed. You would never catch him in pajamas. You would never catch him undressed or not put together. He cares so much about his image. And he was just not for me. There were a lot of things that I was just like, oh, you know what? I mean, like he ghosted me, but then I was sort of bypassing all these things that because he was treating me great and I was happy and I felt safe. I'd never had doubts. I felt comfortable. But then when I started seeing those things, I started feeling kind of uneasy. I started feeling like questioning. I'm like, are you straight? Are you sure? And ultimately, like, I was just like, maybe this is not the right person for me. And so we broke up and everything. And I did take the heartbreak. I did take a heartbreak with that just because it was unexpected when he ghosted me. But then after I started doing the healing work, that's when I started like, okay, you know what? I bypassed some things that I shouldn't have bypassed, even though they were not extreme red flags. There were things that I was not aligned with, like orange flags, let's put it that way. But he was in his feminine energy, and I was like, I was not attracted to him, no libido. And it was one of those situations that I'm like, no boundaries. He was very, very like truly his feminine energy. And I felt like I needed to be a little bit of the stronger one, even though I was not taking lead, making plans or anything, unless I cooked at his house because he didn't know how to cook. I would be the one making the plans. What am I going to eat? What am I going to buy? And all of that, which is fine because he paid for all the dates and I didn't never had to worry about money. But there were also instances that I knew he was not reliable. And these are huge. I'm glad I remember this right now. He was not reliable in the sense that whenever I went out of town, he would never ask me, do you have transportation to the airport? Do you need me to pick you up? Do you need me to drop you off? Like, do you need anything? Like, not reliable. He wouldn't even offer himself. And there was this other instance that I was going to go and see an apartment, and it was this guy who lived in the apartment, and the communication was really weird. It was through Facebook Marketplace. God knows. I know. Last time I do that. And I felt very unsafe going to go and see this apartment. So like I was telling him, I'm like, hey, I don't feel comfortable. I don't feel safe. Like, I feel really weird. The communication has been just weird with this guy, but I'm going to go and see the apartment. Never offer, oh, I'll go with you. And it was like minutes to his house. And he never offered, oh, I'll go with you. Like, I got you back. I'm there to support you. Let me go with you so I can like take care of things, so I can ask the questions. No, I was there. And then ultimately, I ended up not meeting the guy because he made me wait for so long because he decided to go for lunch at the time we were supposed to meet. So I ended up not meeting him, but I felt so unsupported. I felt like I couldn't have his support as a man because I didn't feel safe and he wouldn't even take charge or lead or pick up on that. And I did ask him at the end, I'm like, hey, I'm like, can you please come with me? I had to be the one asking him, but then I canceled. So then I said, hey, never mind. The guy's not showing up. So I just canceled everything. But then I started feeling like, oh my God, he's not reliable. He's not supportive. He's not offering himself, knowing that I could be in an unsafe situation. So he's not protecting me. I didn't feel that energy. So that was another red flag and so many other things. But I did have a good experience with him. He was a good person, a good man, but he was just not what I was looking for as far as that he wasn't really in his masculine energy the way that I desired. Just in some instances he was and in some he didn't. And I do make more money than he did because he of his work. So that was also another factor. But regardless, I had to now be very discerning that I'm like, okay, now I know what it's like to attract someone narcissistic, misogynistic, avoidant, all those things. I also know what it's like to attract someone in his feminine energy. And I'm not even going to get into someone else that I was in his feminine energy, someone who had no boundaries, who was very wishy washy, didn't take the lead, didn't make an effort, didn't make money. I'm not even going to go into that one because that's another lesson for me. So now I know what I'm looking for. I know that I want a man who is in his masculine energy, sorry, masculine energy. And I know what I desired. I want a man that is a provider, that is a support system, that it leads, that makes an effort, that pursues me, that is decisive, that he's emotionally connected to himself, that he can lead himself too as well in his life, that he takes control of situations, that he's reliable, he's resourceful, that he makes my life easier, that he makes me feel safe, that he has direction and a vision for life. He has ambition too. I want someone ambitious, is someone that makes a plan for his life. Like I said, very goal oriented. I like that. Someone that takes action, that is decisive, someone that leads himself in his life well, someone that can hold space for me, someone that allows me to surrender and trust him so I can be in my feminine energy. And like I said before, it doesn't mean that you're never going to be in your masculine energy. You absolutely will. You just have to know when to do the dance. So I hope this helped you. I hope this gave you a few insights that you probably didn't have, or if you did, this sort of reinforce what you already know. But you want someone that it's gonna make you feel surrender in your feminine and lean back to receive all his love and attention and care and romance so you can be magnetic, so you can be in your pleasure, happy, joyful, receive, so you can be in your pleasure and be radiant, be magnetic, and you can also be in your fierce feminine energy. You can be in this energy of creativity, intuition, and that's when you're gonna know that this is the right dynamic. But sometimes it takes getting to know people, getting to understand these dynamics for you to really know, hey, am I mainly in my masculine energy as a woman in relationships, attracting men, mainly his wounded feminine energy? Or what type of energy am I primarily on? For me, I'm in my masculine energy every single day. But when it comes to relationships, I've been single for a year. I am in my feminine energy, but I'm also in my fierce feminine energy, but I'm also in my masculine energy. But I know what I desire and I know when to pull back and lean back to allow him to show up for me that way that I desired. And I am excited if I ever meet that person. I'm single by choice right now. I am working on so many other things. Decentering men and dating has been amazing for the past year, but I know what I don't desire. And I know that I will never put myself in a situation where I'm with a man in his feminine, wounded feminine energy. And I highly believe, and this is something that I've been thinking about lately, the men who everybody calls simps, those are the men who are really in their masculine energy. If you really study that and study them and see what they do and how they hold space for their partners, how they are in those relationships, how happy they are, the women, if you really look at them, you will really understand that they are in their masculine energy. And these men that claim publicly that they're masculine, alpha male, masculine energy, they're really men who have no idea how to be in their masculine energy, because a man who is in his masculine energy is never going to be there proclaiming or voicing or publicly saying that. They don't care to do that because their actions speak louder than words. They are provider men, they're support systems for their partner. They make an effort, they lead, they have incredible relationships, they're decisive, they're men that put their wives or their partners or girlfriends first. They treat them like queens. They don't mind pain, they don't mind providing, they don't mind being romantic, they don't mind chivalry and all those things. Like, I fully believe that men who everybody calls simp men, I don't even know why they call them that, or the beta men are the true alpha male. Like, I fully believe that. So anyway, this is it for this episode. I hope you found it informative and it helped you in making decisions, or if you know you need healing or how to take ownership and accountability for some things, like, it's totally fine. But like I said, get to know someone and be very discerning and get to know what you desire and what you don't desire, and the dynamics, how they play this dynamics of dating someone in his wounded feminine energy versus someone in his masculine energy. And don't settle for less than what you desire and deserve. And if this podcast you feel somebody needs to listen to, somebody like that, you know, a friend is going through this, send this podcast episode. Let me know through TikTok, Facebook, or Instagram. But my main accounts are TikTok and Instagram. Your thoughts, tag me on Instagram stories. And if it feels so aligned, I would be so grateful if you can leave a 5-star review wherever you listen to this podcast, because it's just going to help reach more women. And if you have any more topics in mind, let me know. But also, my coaching is available. All the links are in the show notes. If you ever need support, shoot me an email or fill out the application for coaching and I will get back to you. But I really hope this helped you, and I love you, and I'll see you until the next episode. Thank you so much for being part of this conversation on the Feminine Truth Podcast. This podcast is for you, for me, for us, for the Feminine Collective. Thank you for spending your time and energy with us. I so appreciate it. Please, it would mean so much if you could share this in your Instagram stories, in your Facebook stories, or everywhere, so this message gets spread and others can find this podcast and this conversation. And if you feel like someone needs to hear this message, please share with them. I would be so grateful for you, and let us know your thoughts, how this has helped you, how you connected with this topic, or how this has felt in your body. And lastly, if you feel the pull, I would be immensely grateful if you could take the time to leave a review so more people can find my podcast and this conversation. I'm sending you so much love, and I'll see you on the next episode.